episode of Virtual Coffee. My name is Alexa Collier, and on this podcast, I have virtual coffee or tea with accomplished and innovative small business owners and early career professionals. With me today is Paul Peterson, the founder of the Wake Zone Coffee House, which is located in Apex, North Carolina. Their goal is to bring joy to their community through their coffee and by creating an enjoyable experience for you, whether you dine in, order on the mobile app, or go through their drive-thru. This is an awesome episode, and Paul walks us through his journey to founding the Wake Zone Coffee House, as well as his advice for others. I'm excited to dive into this episode, but before we do, I would really appreciate if you could rate and review the Virtual Coffee Podcast on the Apple Podcasts app. It only takes a few seconds to do so. You can also follow us on all the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, TikTok. It's at Virtual Coffee Podcast. As always, thank you so much for your support and happy listening. Now let's dive into Paul's episode. Welcome, Paul. Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to talk.
I am too. So let's just kick things off. Tell me a bit about the Wake Zone Coffee House. Tell me a little bit about its mission, maybe where the idea came from to launch this business.
Wake Zone Coffee House is Wake County's favorite coffee shop. We're located in Apex, North Carolina. We have 2 locations, both dine-in service, drive-through service, and mobile app service. So we can really meet the needs of all of our different customers, whether you're wanting to come in and work and relax, whether you're wanting to drive through because you've got the kids in the car and it's hard to get out, or whether you're in a hurry on the way to work, you can just order on the mobile app and come through. So we have lots of different options that work out well for people. We brew, obviously, all of our own coffee. It's all locally roasted. We brew all of our chais and teas fresh every single day. Nothing's from concentrate. We really focus on making sure that we can offer people the best coffee products possible. Our mission as a whole, we really want to bring coffee-infused joy to the community. We view ourselves as a hospitality business that sells coffee. So we really focus on how we interact with customers, the service we provide. How do we make people feel? We want them to feel better when they leave than they did when they walk in, whether they physically walk in, whether they virtually interact with us through the mobile app, or whether they drive through. And so, all of our customer touch points, we really try to focus on how we can brighten their day and make their experience better. And we think the coffee is, there's really no better way to do that but through coffee.
Mm-hmm.
As I sit here and sip my own Wake Zone coffee this morning.
Yes. This conversation is so on brand for the podcast for Virtual Coffee. So I think that's awesome. I didn't realize you guys had drive-through. That's a pretty big accomplishment.
We do. The little background on the coffee shop. So I bought a coffee shop. It was called Wake Zone Espresso about 3.5 years ago. We rebranded it, refocused the coffee shop, and added our second location a year and a half ago. So the original coffee shop that we bought a few years ago did have drive-through service, a larger dining room inside, and we really recognized that drive-through was a trend well before, obviously, the COVID pandemic that we're dealing with. But we recognize that you have to meet customers where they're at, and you have to interact with them where they're at and not always expect them to kind of contort to where you're at. And so when we added our second location, having a convenient drive-through that allowed us to have speed of service, quality product, but then also, an enhanced level of customer service above what other drive-throughs can do is really important. An example of that is at the new coffee shop. We had a really nice wall mural done by a local muralist here in the Raleigh-Durham area. Her name is Lisa Gaither. She did the Marbles Museum, and she's done a bunch of other really beautiful wall murals. So she came out and did that one there. And we wanted something that was interactive for people as they came through the drive-through. And how do we bring that inside experience to the outside? I feel like a lot of other places, they treat their drive-through customers as just strictly transactional. And we want all of our experiences to be greater than transactions. We want them to be some sort of a relational experience where, we hear somebody's voice through the drive-through and we recognize that that's Lee's drink and Lee wants it this way. And we can, talk to her and ask her about how her husband's doing and their day. And you have a puppuccino ready for her dog and all this other stuff. All of those things. We just really want to make sure that we can bring the inside out.
That's excellent. I really appreciate your emphasis on the overall experience, right? It's clearly not just about the coffee. While, of course, that's an extremely important part of
Sure.
a coffee shop, the experience also matters in all aspects of the shop. So that's just really great to hear. I really appreciate that perspective and mindset.
Well, and I think how, we really try to train our employees and the team
Hmm.
members that we have that what we sell is a luxury product. That, as much as we enjoy coffee and other people enjoy coffee, it's one of those things that they can choose to come to us or they can choose to not come to us. And
Hmm.
so we want to make sure that we treat people right every single time. And so it's just a lot of focus on that. And I think it's also respecting that coffee drinks can be pricey, and so it's respecting the
Hmm.
money that people spend, and so it's making sure that their experience is fantastic and that the drink quality is high, the service quality is high every single time, because you have to really respect when somebody decides to spend money buying what you're selling. You have to really
Hmm.
respect that effort and that desire for them to drive out of their way to do that. And so we really do, and I think it's really conveying that through our baristas, through our team members, and
Yep.
we think that it really enhances the customer experience.
That's great. I even really appreciate your Instagram. Your post always they always bring me such joy. Like you show, your baristas making the drinks, or it just seems very fun. It's a very fun feed. So I can tell that even seeps through to your social medias, which is excellent.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, we really try, and I think it's in this day and age, it's figuring out how you can communicate with your customers and your community. And I
Hmm.
think that's what we've really spent a lot of time doing is building a community and trying to interact in the community in which we live. So I live in Apex. I live 5 to 7 minutes from both of my shops. My kids go to school there. It's fun being embedded in the community and also having these the coffee shops there as well. We really enjoy it. We have a good time with it.
Hmm. No, that's great. And I know you mentioned this earlier, but just to clarify, so is the Wake Zone Coffee House, does that have two locations or are they different titled shops?
No, they're actually two locations, same
Okay.
branding. It's the
Okay.
Wake Zone Coffee House. As you mentioned, you can find us on Instagram, Wake Zone Coffee House, Facebook, and also Twitter. We actually have a
Mhm.
really fun TikTok feed. I don't know
Nice.
if you've delved into that world too much. I'm being a 43-year-old father of three. I'm learning a little bit more about that, but it's luckily I have quite a few younger team members who help us along in that regard. But yeah, we've got probably close to 7,000 followers on there. We've had a
Wow.
couple pseudo viral coffee shop videos on there. So it's a lot of fun. It's again, it's just meeting your customers where you're at. You have different demographics on different platforms, and you're
Right.
having different types of conversations with people. We are a community coffee shop, and that means that we have all different types of people in the community. And so we want to be able to interact with them on all different levels.
Hmm.
And we've even, the one Peloton, the Peloton's indoor cycling bike. We have our own, Wake Zone Coffee House hashtag on there. So people in
Oh,
our community who are
wow.
doing their indoor bike fitness, we have our own little Wake Zone tribe on there, cycling away,
That's
getting some
awesome.
fitness. So yeah, we just try to have fun with stuff.
Yeah. No, that's very cool. Good for you for being very active on TikTok. I browse TikTok a ton. Really, really love that platform. It's very hard, even with the podcast. Granted, it's just me. I also have my, 9 to 5 quote unquote corporate job, but social media is very hard to keep consistent, especially when there are so many platforms, right? Like I would love to create more TikToks for the virtual coffee podcast account, but
Sure.
it's difficult. So good for you guys for keeping up on all those platforms because that's a huge accomplishment. That's very difficult to do to produce quality and consistent content like you guys are doing.
Well, I appreciate it. I think I think one of the things that we've tried to focus on is coffee houses in and of themselves have an
Mhm.
organic nature to them and how people
Mhm.
gather and how you interact with people, and whether you're dining over food or dining over a cup of coffee, you're interacting with people in a very kind of it's an organic, natural way. And so that's what we've really tried to do through our social media accounts is try to, there are going to be some set or more produced photos, but most of
Mhm.
them are just going to be organic. Here's
Yeah.
so and so making a drink, and that's our TikTok is like that, where we have, here's how we make our drinks. Here,
Right.
here we are at the roasting facility. Here's where our beans come from. Here's how we make our espresso. Like here's what we do. And so it's kind of a
Mhm.
behind the scenes of the coffee shop, and it's been really cool to see that just the everyday functions of the coffee shop interest people, and of course, try to let the our personality shine through.
No, that's excellent. I just followed you guys on TikTok. I of course already followed you on Instagram, but now
No, that's awesome.
and we'll have you guys on TikTok, which is great. I'm looking forward to that. I would love to dive into the actual coffee you sell and just tell me a bit about the product itself, maybe a little bit about where you source it from. I really don't know much about the coffee world, so any background on it that you could give would be awesome.
Oh, it's fantastic. So all of our coffee is obviously it's sourced worldwide. So we have some coffee that comes from Kenya, Tanzania,
Wow.
Nicaragua, Honduras. And so we have those are called single origin coffees. So they're coffees that come from a specific farm and a specific place in the world. And I try to equate it to people who would do like a single barrel whiskey,
Hmm.
or a single malt whiskey, so that or like a batch of wine. And so, like, oh, this specific, Woodford 1999, Cabernet has a specific flavor profile because of the grapes that year, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
Coffee is similar in that the different flavor profiles of a particular type of bean from a particular region of the country is going to be dictated by the weather and the ground conditions and all of those things. And so we have our single origin coffees that we have every single day. And we have one specialty coffee every single day, which is, it could be a Nicaraguan, it could be again, Honduras, Kenya, Peruvian. And those are going to have sometimes more eccentric kind of flavor characteristics. So they could be more bold, more fruity, more citrusy. They could be more earthy or peaty, things like that. And some people really dig those things. And
Hmm.
then other people aren't, but they're in it for kind of the experience of it. It's kind of like different types of wines. There are some that you're going to prefer a lot more than others, but you respect the fact that, oh, well, this is kind of what the grapes were doing that year, and this was the particular ingredient they were able to kind of work with. Then what we have is our Wake Zone blend. And what that is a blend that is designed around a specific flavor profile. So what we do is we have different beans that are put together. You think about the beans as like ingredients. So those
Hmm.
ingredients are put together to create a specific blend that meets a flavor profile. And we wanted that flavor profile to be a medium dark, something that if you like coffee, you will love our Wake Zone blend. It shoots more middle, down the middle of the road. It's delicious. It's flavorful. It's got, notes of kind of fruity. It's a little bit bold, but
Hmm.
it's one of those things that'll shoot down the middle that if you like coffee, you'll really enjoy our Wake Zone blend. Yeah, so that's how we differentiate the two. We have the blend, which is a combination of ingredients, and then you think about the single origin as kind of the ingredients themselves that you can brew something special with. And then for our espresso drinks, we use an espresso blend as well. And that's because we really want to make sure that we have consistency. When you start getting different single origin beans and making espresso from those, you can get different characteristics that come through, and those characteristics can either interact with the milk and the flavors more positively or more negatively. And so, what we've dialed that in to make sure that our flavored drinks, the hot lattes, the hot vanilla lattes, or the iced brown sugar lattes, whether it's now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, those are going to taste the same because it's built around a flavor profile. Now, I think single origin as an espresso tastes delicious, but it's one of those things where if you're coming in, going back to how people spend their money, if you're coming in and you're spending $5, $6, $7 for a custom drink, you want it to taste the same way today that it did last Sunday and then five
Right.
Sundays before that. And so it goes back to kind of really respecting the money and the experience that customers are choosing to spend with you.
That's great. And clearly you know a ton about the product that you're selling and sourcing, and that's just obviously so great to hear from a business owner, and all just sounds so delicious. Do you guys also sell any food or tea as well?
We do have teas. We have we have a rooibos chai tea
Yep.
that's fruity and a little bit spicy. And that's what we use for our chai lattes. We do a brew chai. We have a black Assam. We have a tropical green tea. Those are both iced, and we can do those hot as well. And then we also have a large variety of different types of hot tea, whether it's a turmeric, a peppermint, obviously your Earl Greys and your blacks,
Hmm.
etc. And we like to have fun with those. We don't get as many people who buy just the hot teas, but what we do is we use those as ingredients in other drinks. An
Okay.
example would be the London Fog is one of our most popular drinks.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
that is, you have your Earl Grey tea, you have a Scotia vanilla, steamed milk, swirl that together, and you have something that's just really delicious. It's flavorful, it's smooth, it's got hints of the vanilla and like the hints of lavender really kind of
Hmm.
pop through there. And that's just a fantastic, it's 42 degrees outside and it's, a little overcast. Like it really just hits the
Yep.
spot.
I love London fogs, so I will definitely have to come in and try yours. They are so good. So I'm very happy to hear that that's on your menu.
Oh yeah, the London fogs, and we'll do a turmeric latte. We'll do one of my favorites, particularly in the evening time, is I'll do a chamomile and honey latte,
Mm.
where you just
Mhm.
do a chamomile, steeped chamomile tea, steamed milk, drizzle a little honey over the top of it, and then you just kind
Yeah.
of sip on that for the next hour, and then you just kind of settle
Yep.
right into the couch, you know.
That's great. I love
So
that. Yes,
it's
totally agree.
I jokingly called it a hug in a cup.
Yes.
I guess I
That's
should call it a
awesome.
hug in a mug. That would sound better, wouldn't it? But
Yeah. There you go. There you go. Rebrand it.
that's right.
That's awesome. Very, very cool. Clearly, you are extremely passionate about the coffee houses, the coffee shops you own, and you clearly know a lot about it, really become an expert in the space. What was the journey like of launching the Wake Zone Coffee House? Were there any major steps you took, challenges you faced, perhaps advice that has come out of your journey that you'd want to share for other small business owners?
For me personally, I came from completely different career fields. So, I had my master's is in urban planning. I worked for the
Okay.
federal government for years in design and construction. And then I was director of facilities out of the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. I just got to the point where I decided I want something different out of life. I had decided that the world of kind of virtual interaction, whether it was just through instant messaging or text messaging and phone calls and all of those aspects, they really just brought me less joy. And I really wanted to get back to an environment where I could interact with real people face to face, have conversations with people and get to know people again. Because I feel like we've just gotten so far away from that. I didn't know that the coffee shop was going to be what I was going to do. But when I started looking at different opportunities and I had created a values list of what I wanted to do with my life, it made sense. It's a perfect way to interact with people. It's a perfect
Mm-hmm.
way to cultivate relationships, to be in the community, to really execute the values that I had written down that I thought were important. And so my wife and I talked about it. And, one of the things that I've always believed in is that, when you and your spouse are on the same page with something, it's probably a really good idea to do it.
Yep.
And so I didn't have to sell her on the idea of it. I mentioned it to her. She's like, great, let's do it. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
done. So yeah, so we decided to do it. So I think that's really what it was. I have always enjoyed coffee. I have
Mhm.
always, I consumed it daily, multiple times throughout the day, as long as I can remember. But I had never really considered myself passionate about coffee. What I was passionate about is people and
Mhm.
trying to be a place where throughout the rest of their lives, there are some people, they get in their car, they drive to work, they sit behind a computer screen, they get in their car and they drive back home. They might not actually interact with a real person face to face all day long in any sort of
Right.
meaningful way. And so I really wanted to create an environment where people could come in and do that. And it could be for only 5 minutes where they come in, they say hi, they go through the drive through, they feel seen, they feel heard. I've had people come through and they stop by, they're on the way to the hospital.
Wow.
Their mother's passing away. And they're like, I don't know
Mhm.
why I stopped here. I just had to stop and talk to somebody. It's like, great. Like, it's not great that what you're going through, but it's
Right.
great that
Right.
we're here for you to kind of be that place. And some of the real conversations that you have with people where they just needed somebody to listen to them because they just might not have anybody at that moment. And so for me, it's just trying to create an environment where those sorts of interactions can take place because I feel like they're probably even more now with this kind of virtual pandemic world that we're living in. But even 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, when I decided to leave the corporate world, that trend was occurring. And I feel like people are just yearning for those sorts of interactions. And
Mhm.
we wanted to create a place where we could do that. And what better way than a coffee shop? And what better vehicle than coffee? So for me, the
Yeah.
passion was people. The passion was, getting to know people and trying to add that level of brightness to their life. And coffee was just the best way to do that. And I've enjoyed learning about coffee, and I really enjoy coffee, and I drink it. But my passion is the people. That's our story. We really
Yeah.
believe in that.
I think that's quite a unique origin story, actually, because, like you said, you were passionate about coffee. It was really the people, which, sure, this happened to manifest in a coffee shop, but it could have been some other type of store, right? It wasn't necessarily, oh, I'm so passionate about coffee. Coffee is my life. Hence, I'm going to open a coffee shop. I think that's very unique that your passion was the people part of it, the experience, the empathy part of it. And that came to be in the form of a coffee shop. I just think that's very cool. That's unique. Oftentimes I hear, oh, I was passionate about the thing I'm selling. Whereas
Correct.
yours is more I'm passionate about the experience. Yes, I like what I'm selling, of course, but the true passion is the people, is the experience.
Well, and I think this goes back to how we describe ourselves. We view ourselves. We are in the hospitality business. We are in the customer
Right.
service business, and coffee is what we sell. And I'll use another example. You take somebody like Chick-fil-A. They sell hospitality. They sell customer service. You buy chicken sandwiches there, but really like the
Right.
hospitality is what you sell. That is why when you drive by a Chick-fil-A, there are cars lined up 16 deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their chicken sandwiches are good, but they're not 16 deep good. But the
Right.
service is great, and you understand that they're going to treat you well and they respect you. To me, those are aspects that are lacking, and those are really differentiators in business. And I really think that how Chick-fil-A has cultivated their business, it's a respect for people. That's just kind of an analogous example for
Hmm.
us. I mean, we really focus on the people aspects of it. I think for me, what I've tried to tell people when they've asked for my advice is if you're passionate about a specific item, whether it's coffee, whether it's bicycles, whether it's, you want to do a karate studio or something like that, that's good.
Hmm.
But you have to really like the people aspect of it. Because for my job, I mean, the people aspect of it, whether it's people interacting with my team members or my managers, whether it's people interacting with my vendors, whether it's people interacting with my customers, all across the board, it's people, 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 people. And that is what allows the business to flourish and do well and propels
Hmm.
it forward. The coffee is really kind of I hate to say it, but a smaller aspect of that. But the people part of it is really the day to day. And so if you're not passionate about the people part, the unfortunate part is you're going to find yourself in a business that you're going to spend your time doing 50 to 60% of work that you don't find value in. And I feel like that's where some frustration comes in. I've heard other people say, all I want to do is sit back here and make coffee. And it's like, well, yeah, but
Hmm.
that's not the job. So anyway, that's just Paul's view on it. So I really think it's just when people are looking at things, I think it's just breaking down how much time you're going to be spending at that job doing it and recognize like your passion might be a very small percentage of that. I've known people who've owned bike shops and they loved biking. And by the end of it, they hated it. They never
Yeah.
got time to bike. They hated
Yeah.
biking and they never got time to ride. They never got time to enjoy their passion because they were so sucked in by that part of it. I think it's just recognizing kind of the reality of it and separating the fantasy from the
Hmm.
reality.
That's great advice. That advice just helps folks ask themselves, do they like the act of the passion, like the physical thing, or almost do they like the service of it? I'm not quite sure what the right words are, but I totally understand what you mean. It's almost like if you're so passionate about coffee and like coffee is your life, I'm not sure if opening a coffee shop is right for you. Maybe being a professional coffee taster. I don't even know if that's
Sure.
a thing, but maybe
No, it
that's
is.
better, right? So
There
just
are people who
yeah, I
travel the world and do that. There are coffee buyers and they're coffee tasters and they're coffee
mhm.
profilers. And these people literally travel the world and go to these countries and work with the farmers. They call them cuppings, where you cupping is the
Oh.
act of like how you taste the coffee. So they
Mhm.
go around and they do this. And, particularly now these days where you have, people here in the States who can't travel as well, we still have to buy coffee from overseas. And so you're
Mhm.
working with these international people who are professionals in this regard. So no, there's a whole world of stuff out there. And I think, you can, if you're passionate about something and the particular hobby is your passion, you can start a club. You can teach young
Right,
people how to do
right.
that. You can teach, other people how to do that. You can develop your hobby further. I think not every hobby or every passion needs to be monetized because
Mhm.
I feel like sometimes that's just a really good way to ruin your hobby or your passion. That said, I love the coffee business. I really enjoy it. I
Mhm.
enjoy how, again, all the aspects of, interacting with the customers and the coffee and all of that. But I think it's just really being sure that when you're getting into something that your eyes are wide open, that you know exactly this is what it is. And if you think that's totally cool that, you're going to spend 50 to 60% of your time dealing with people and you're going to spend 20% of your time doing marketing and 10% of your time doing coffee and the rest of it doing business and finance stuff and all of that. And that's totally
Mhm.
cool with you. And you think life's going to be fantastic. Then I totally encourage people to do it. But if you're looking at that and you think, that balance is kind of skewed a little bit, then
Right.
maybe it's not worth, putting your time and money and passion into.
I think it is more about do you want to enhance your hobby of biking, coffee tasting, whatever that is? Because if that's the answer, like if you really like the hobby of it, then owning the shop or like bringing the experience to others maybe is something different. Yeah, I like how you explain that. It really does make sense. And I do think that's great advice.
No, it's awesome.
Thinking about, the Wake Zone and your future, what are your plans for the business? Of course, only the things that you can share. Do you want to continue to just keep pushing on the Wake Zone? Do you have other business ideas that you want to launch into? Just tell me a bit about where you see your future.
So we're really excited about Wakestone. I think that we have really kind of cultivated our personality and our culture and have a
Mhm.
really good understanding of who we are. And we really think that there's space for our culture and our personality out there in the world. And we really think that there's a gap where people could really enjoy, coffee should be fun. And I think that there are a lot of coffee shops where they don't make coffee and the experience of coffee is fun as it should be. So we really think there's space out there for us to be able to expand and to bring our focus on people, to bring our focus on customer service and products out there. And so we're in the process of expanding right now. We're going to be launching franchise opportunities here the next
Oh,
week or
wow.
two. So the paperwork's going to be filed this week. And we have a couple of really cool concepts. One is going to be more of the traditional model like we have right now. So it's going to have both dine-in, drive-through, as well as
Hmm.
mobile app service, which we currently have. The second model that's really cool is going to be a drive-through only model. But it's a little bit of a different model. What we're looking at doing and we're designing right now is called the coffee shop in a box. And
Okay.
what we've done is we've designed utilizing cargo shipping containers, coffee shops in a box that we 100% build off-site. So we design, source all the equipment, the interior construction, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, all of that off-site. And we will deliver it to the site, put it in place, and it's a little bit more nimble, so it allows you to go into parking lot spaces, out
Wow.
parcels, and other lots that might not otherwise be available to people for drive-through coffee. What it does is it shortens the timeline to get open. So instead of it taking six to
Wow.
9 months for a traditional shop, we're looking at about 3 to 6 months. So you get to start kind of the runway to revenue is a lot faster. So you can get open, get generating revenue a lot faster. And so we can also offer it at a less expensive price because we're able to build off-site utilizing the shipping containers, kind of a base shell. We are able to create a more efficient manufacturing process, construction process for these particular units. And so
Wow.
these are, for all purposes, these are going to be buildings. These are buildings as far as the city and municipalities are going to be concerned. And
Hmm.
all the permits and everything like that are going to be just the same. How we're going to be managing our construction and development of them is going to be more in a manufacturing type setup. So it's going to allow us to be able to offer these at a less expensive price than it would be for regular stick built construction. Yeah, we've got our team set up right now. We're in the process of developing that. The official paper, we're going to be launching that soon. So we're really, really excited about this. We think that it's going to allow not just the models that we have now, but then the new drive-through only concept model to spread a little bit faster, get out there to the
Hmm.
community and be places where people can come by, get their morning coffee, get their afternoon teas, come by and get, some danishes and muffins and pastries, things like that, interact with some amazing baristas and staff members who want to try to brighten your day and make life a little bit brighter for you, better for you. And we think we have a good opportunity to do that.
Wow. That's a really neat idea. Would it be, you and Wake Zone like popping up these buildings, throughout the towns? Like is that how you're envisioning that? Or is it, oh, someone wants to open a Wake Zone, so they purchase this coffee in a box from you and then they work on it?
It would be a combination of the two. So we're
Okay.
going to have some corporate owned stores that we would do ourselves.
Hmm.
And then we would look at having other people who would be interested in franchising and essentially getting the license from Wake Zone to be
Wow.
able to operate under our name.
Right.
And so what we would do is we would sell them the box. We have the equipment packages. Myself, who obviously is the president of the Wake Zone
Hmm.
Coffee Corporation, partnering with our local roaster so that when we create this package for people, not only is it just us bringing in the branding and the box and other items, but we're also bringing in all of the coffee, the syrups, powders, all the other stuff that you need to open the
Right.
shop. So it's literally a one-stop shopping. And so one of the things that I learned when I opened up our second shop was it's a lot of work to open up a shop. And I will say, for somebody who has a background in design and construction and who knows how to read drawings, who knows how to talk to architects and engineers and contractors and all of that, it's still a lot of work to open up a coffee
Right.
shop.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of people who are passionate about getting into business and they would want to do this, but they have zero understanding of that
Yeah.
side of the world. And that is a real hurdle for a lot of people. And so what we've done is we can solve those problems for people because through our architectural and engineering team, we've already 100% designed the box. So that's done.
Right.
We've already sourced all of the equipment. So that's done. We already have the product, the recipes, all of that's done. And so what we've done is gone through the process and said, what problems would arise for people that would be hurdles for them if they really wanted to do this, but felt encumbered or worried about these different aspects because they might know how to run a business, or they might be passionate about people, they might really want to get into coffee, but they don't know how to do all the stuff to get to that point. How can we solve those problems for them so that we can then have a product that we can hand off to them so they can get up and going faster and really get to doing what they want to do, which is interacting with people, selling coffee, and
Right, right.
enjoy running their business. And so that's the approach that we've taken. And so the team that we've created, whether it's working with SBA lenders, conventional bankers, whether it's commercial property brokers who can help people find locations, the architectural engineering team, all of that stuff is sourced and ready for people. So as these franchisees come in, we can hand them off to our partners who are working with to help them quickly get up and running. People who understand our business, our model of what we're trying to do. So we're really excited about that. Going back to the traditional model, we really think that there's a space for the in-person driving coffee shop as well. We're all very COVID sensitive right now. And part of the idea with the drive-through coffee shop is drive-through and mobile app service was already on the rise prior to COVID. And I feel like the COVID pandemic this past year, what it's done is it's accelerated trends. And I feel like the drive-through and the mobile app was part of that acceleration. And so I think the drive-through model is a piggyback on that. So it allows us to create a model that will work out well, that is more insulated against whether it's future pandemics, future shutdowns, whether it is decreased occupancy that might end up arising from this. And it's also just meeting with the existing trends that were there prior to all of this. The more traditional model will be available. There are going to be some available spaces on the second and third generation space market that'll become available. And so we'll work with people who would want to go in and take advantage of those spaces and put a Wakestone Coffee House in there as well. So we're really focusing on those two different models. Our business over the past year, we had about 9 months where we were shut down for in-store service. And we had to shift all of our in-store service to drive-through a mobile app. And we were fortunate that we were able to essentially replace all of the in-store service with the drive-through and the mobile app. And so we were able to test the drive-through model this past year. And so we think it's something that's really going to be viable for people going forward. So people still yearn to talk to people. And I think we've figured out a good way that we can do that through the drive-through and interact with people and try to bring that personality to them. But again, you're meeting customers where they are. And I feel like that's what we've been able to do. And so we're looking at trying to expand on that and allow other people to do that as well.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Again, going back to that coffee in a box idea, I love that because you're so right. Even my husband is trying to figure out what his passion is in life and what he really wants to do. And, we'll always throw around, oh, why don't you just open a coffee shop? And first it's exciting, but then it's like, well, okay, like how do you even start that? Like that is so overwhelming, right? So I love that idea. That's really neat. Like you're helping out future small business owners who might not know where to start but want to be entrepreneurial. I just love it.
It's totally true. I mean, and there are people who would be fantastic coffee shop owners, but they don't know how to find an architect. They don't know how to find an engineer. They feel worried about being taken advantage of by a general contractor. They are worried about the cost of construction that keeps rising. They don't know how to review bids. They don't know how to review estimates, timelines to get open. They don't even know when you're looking at a coffee shop, where should things go? How should the workflow be managed? And so we've mapped all of that out. We have a coffee training facility that we were able to set everything up and set up the machines, the espresso machines, the coffee brewers, the blenders, movable tables, all of that stuff. So we can literally recreate the inside of this. So as we were designing it, we're like mapping out, how many steps to this place, how many steps to this place, who has to turn for what, how do we economize this? And so, we've thought so much about how we can make the functionality work and optimize the space. And so that way, when somebody's coming into this, they don't have to know all of those things. They don't have to worry about, am I going to make a mistake? Because the reality is you're building out a new coffee shop. It could easily cost between $2,000 and $250,000 just to build out the interior space of a coffee shop. Plus you're buying equipment, which could cost $60,000. If you make a mistake in the design, not only does that impact your viability as a business, does it impact your functionality as a business? Does it impact, are you going to have to do change orders, which might cost 10 or 20% more? So you could easily have these cost overruns that could take your, $250,000 project and put it as a $300,000 to $350,000 project and add time,
energy,
time, energy, and there's
mental
really
capacity.
Time, energy, the mental capacity. And it's that, can you sleep at night? Those are those small aspects that people don't think about, but it's like, if you're doing something like this, are you prepared to maybe have a night or two where you're kind of staring at the ceiling thinking, oh crap, what did I get myself into? And so
Mm-hmm.
if we can solve those problems for people, we want people to be successful. We want people to be able to focus on, the people in the product and being able to share their joy that they have through the coffee products. We want them focusing on that, not on, how am I supposed to redesign this, or how come my layout
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work, or, dot, dot, dot. So if we can really kind of build the business in a model in the way that allows them to focus on really the core competencies of what makes Wake Zone special, and we can solve those other problems for them, then they're going to be better in the long run, then we're going to be better in the long run.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about that coffee in a box and really all the places you're taking the Wake Zone Coffee House. I think this is an excellent business. You clearly have such a great perspective and mindset and passion for it. So just really looking forward to seeing all that comes out of it. Well, my last big question here, Paul, that I always end my episodes with is in this moment, what is your proudest accomplishment? And of course, it can be related to what we spoke about today and the Wake Zone, or it doesn't have to be at all. Just kind of that first thing that comes to mind when I ask you what your proudest accomplishment is.
I'm very proud with, how we've done with the business. I think it's just building our community. I really love seeing the messages that we get from people where they, I'll get a message from somebody saying, I went by today and I had fantastic service. It really brightened my day. Or you have people who will post something on Instagram and they said, they were just so nice up there. I was having such a bad day. And I get these messages all the time. And I think, it's not just one particular moment. I just really value all of those individual moments because the sum of them all really matters, because I feel like we're just building something. The ability to brighten somebody's day, the ability to have that positive impact on somebody, I think is just worth a lot. And I think the gradual building of that, is really valuable. If I had to pick one, very, very specific accomplishment, I think it's just being able to balance, particularly this past year, the family obligations. I had 3 kids and all 3 of them were remote schooled.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping these businesses open and thriving was challenging, but we're very fortunate that we're able to do that. Keeping our staff and our team members
Mm-hmm.
engaged and passionate about helping people and brightening their day, even on days where maybe they weren't feeling as great, they got power from helping other people. So I think this past year, just being able to balance all of that as a personal point of pride, I feel really good about,
Yep.
because it's something that, the relationship you have with your spouse and the interaction and the relationship that you have with your kids, and then the relationship and interaction that you have with the shops and your employees there and kind of the community as a whole. It's one of those things that it's not always going to be that way, but you can't take it for granted when it is. And so I just really appreciate that. So I think that's probably, as I sit here now, I probably
Mm-hmm.
have the most gratitude for that.
That's so lovely to hear. And again, congratulations on everything you've accomplished so far, especially like you're saying this past year with life things, right? Like 3 kids at home constantly, and then your other kid, which is the coffee house. So yeah, just congratulations on balancing all of that and succeeding in all. And like I said, I'm really looking forward to seeing where the Wake Zone Coffee House goes. So that's wonderful.
Well, that's fantastic. I appreciate you hosting this conversation. I think
Yeah.
it's such a fun thing to be able to get on here and talk to you about these things and be able to share our
Awesome.
story and talk to you about Wake Zone.
Before we wrap up, where can everyone find the Wake Zone Coffee House and you on social media, your website, etc.?
Well, Twitter, we're on there at Wake Zone Coffee. Apparently, Wake Zone Coffee House is too long for Twitter, so we're just Wake Zone Coffee on the Twitter, and then it's Wake Zone Coffee House on Instagram. It's Wake Zone Coffee House on Facebook, and it's Wake Zone Coffee House on TikTok as well. And
Perfect.
again, we really enjoy interacting with people, and we try to have fun social media accounts, and we share a lot of whether it's promos and interactions on there. Our website is www.thewakezone.com, and you can find our mobile app on there. And every time you use the mobile app, your first drink is always free on the mobile app. So
Oh,
go ahead,
nice.
download the mobile app, get a free drink, come try us. And we do send out very few notifications, but typically the ones that we do have some sort of a $1 off coupon or some sort of a promo in there. So if we're going to bug you, it'll be for a good reason. You'll probably save some money.
That is so awesome and excellent. Well, I hope everyone checks out the Wake Zone and Paul on their social medias. And again, thank you so much, Paul, for chatting with me today. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Alexa. Have a great day.